Montana Coffee Traders. I'm representing
today. It was so good she bought the shirt. It is good coffee. So we've and we've kind of tried some of their different blends. This is what, Travelers?
Yes, that's Travelers blend or something like that. And then we have Treasure blend waiting on us when we run out of this.
Yeah,
which doesn't take long.
Not the way we drink it. So we wanted to get back on and just kind of update everyone on where we've been, because when we last left, we were in Citrus Heights, California,
with Katie and Nathan.
That's right. And so go check out that last coffee chat, and it'll keep you updated, as we go along. But we were with the Mariposa Avenue congregation at that point, and stayed with them for a week, and actually stayed on their property. And,
yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, and that was.
So if we're ever coming your way and you have a place for us to stay and hook up, that saves us a lot of money.
That helps.
It's really great,
definitely,
especially in California. It was really good.
Yeah,
and we got to spend a lot of time with Nathan and Katie that way.
Yeah,
and the church. Like I got to go to the ladies' Bible class, and that was and tell them about my side of 416.
That's right.
That was really good.
Is your side different than our side? My side?
Yeah, of course it is.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. So we left there and we drove up through the redwoods.
Yeah.
And Northern California.
101.
Yeah.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, that was very cool. And we drove up the coast into Oregon, up the Oregon coast, and that was probably one of those shocking type drives.
Like, I had always heard it's pretty and you should see it.
Yeah.
See the coast, drive the coast, but until you've actually seen it, it's just we took pictures. I'm sure you'll post a couple of videos or pictures, but I mean it never does it justice, but it's so pretty. And there's a lighthouse on the way. We stopped and took a picture or video.
Yeah, and actually there's several obviously going up the coast.
We didn't get to go.
It's hard when you have a 30-foot camper behind you to pull in some of those places, especially on the 101. So that was that made it a little difficult, but it was really beautiful, wonderful drive.
And we were to see our friend Lisa.
And we were going to see Lisa, who's up, and she actually lives in Washington, but we'll kind of explain that. But she worships with the congregation in Beaverton, Oregon, which is basically a suburb of Portland. But we drove to the east side of there, about an hour away from the congregation, is where we actually stayed in Cascade Locks, which was beautiful. The camera stopping. We had to get more coffee.
Love it when the camera just doesn't record. But 3 minutes.
It just stopped after 3 minutes. I don't know what happened. So
take two.
Yeah, here we go. All right, so
we were talking about driving up the Oregon coast.
Yes.
And how beautiful it was.
Yeah,
it really was.
And we got the opportunity to go to Tillamook.
Yes.
Here it is. Tillamook.
Yeah.
And cheese, ice cream, all the stuff. And,
so good.
Yeah, and we went in the museum.
It's free, first of all.
Yeah, doesn't cost.
You only spend whatever you're going to take and eat and all of that.
Right, and so you get to go in the museum. Of course, they have a long history. 1909 is what it says on the coffee cup. But you get to sample cheese, and you get to sample ice cream, choose what you want, and all that. So
they have really cool postcards. I have this one left, but they have them shaped like that little VW.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I always send postcards to the grands and to my great nephew Branch.
Yep.
He's trying to get one from every state, so we've covered a lot of states for him. And they send me a video of him reading. He's 4. His postcard. So those are always fun. I love finding postcards that are unique.
Yeah.
And everywhere we've been, and we'll talk about the glacier ones too.
Yeah.
And everything.
It's, so, and we like to stop in places. Obviously, that was pretty cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, other than the cheese
other than
the ice cream,
the cheese and the
wonderful grilled cheese sandwich, by the way. You should check that out.
Yes,
and
so good. And also, when we were leaving, we were checking out because I got like the babies something, and we were buying some cheese. And did we buy ice cream? We didn't, because it would have melted.
We were still traveling.
So we bought some cheese, put it in the camper. Oh, and there's parking for campers there.
Yeah.
So you can just, they've got RV parking if you're traveling through. And so what was I saying?
About the aged cheese.
Oh yeah, the aged cheese. So the lady that was checking us out, she started because I wanted some of the aged cheese, but it was so expensive.
Yeah.
And she said that according to the year and what the cows eat, the cheese has a flavor to it.
Yeah.
And as it ages, I guess that flavor's brought out even more. But one of the years, I think it was 2014, it was the oldest one. She said that year they ate a lot of strawberries, and so there's like a strawberry flavor in the cheese.
Yeah.
So weird, but pretty cool. I'm like, give those cows some chocolate.
Yeah, that's right.
Chocolate cheese.
That's right.
I don't know about that.
We'll try anything, right?
But we didn't get that. But it's really cool.
Yeah.
And they have the factory there to show how they're making the cheese and the curds and all that stuff. It was really neat.
It's and so that's on the Oregon coast, and we were headed eastward from there to
Visit Lisa
and catch up with her. She was a member that we got to know down in Gulf Breeze, Florida years ago.
They were in the Air Force, and so they were stationed there. And
after Toby retired, they moved to Washington, Oregon, which is right across the line from where we were staying. And but we stayed in Cascade Locks, which was about an hour from the congregation where she worshiped, on the other side, on the west side of Portland, in Beaverton. But we got to meet with them, got to meet their, a lot of their members, went out to eat with one of the elders and his wife, Deacon and his wife, and with Lisa, and just got to know them. They were interested, just asking questions about the work that we're doing, and so we were getting an opportunity to talk to them. And
Lisa showed us around.
We got to visit all kind of stuff in the area. We got to Hood River, Oregon area.
They had the windsurfers.
Oh yeah,
is that what
kite surfers.
Yeah,
kite surfing. That's a huge area for that. And so that was pretty neat. We got to watch those guys out there on one of the days. We went back another day. There was no wind, so there was no kite surfers.
But we sat.
Yeah,
and
just
coffee
sat. It was like glass out there, on the Columbia River in that particular area. It was kind of like a little inlet right there.
And Lisa's a coffee drinker, so she took us to this lodge.
Yeah,
I think their son used to work there.
That's right.
And I guess there, and then the lodges out in Glacier too, but you can just go in and they have coffee shops, sometimes restaurants, but you can just go and sit and look at the mountains, and it's so peaceful and nice. Like resorts in other areas of the United States, not so much. Like you have to pay to be in there.
Yeah. Well, they want you to come in, obviously, and especially for their restaurants and things like that. And
but anyway, so we went there, a lavender field, and like Wayne loves ice cream, so anytime you say, "Hey, there's ice cream,"
we're going.
Yes. But this ice cream was infused with lavender and lemon, and I wasn't quite sure about eating lavender ice cream, but it was delicious.
Yeah, I was skeptical, but I'll try ice cream of any kind. So it was very good, very refreshing. Yeah,
and the lavender fields were not blooming. I'm sure it's just even more peaceful and beautiful. But it was up on a hill, and you could walk around the farm, and it was just a neat place. And we enjoyed time with Lisa. Yeah. And then we moved on over back into Idaho.
Yeah. We kind of come full circle back to Idaho, and we were there.
Sandpoint.
And we were in southern Idaho before, and now we're in northern Idaho. This part of the trip, and so we were in Sandpoint near Coeur d'Alene, and which is a beautiful lake area that if you've visited anywhere in northern Idaho, you know about that. But you're up in the Panhandle, and so the last couple miles really before the Canadian border.
Mm-hmm.
And so at Sandpoint, their preacher, Jesse LeMay, and his wife, Nadia, they've been there about a year. And
she's from Australia.
Yes.
So she's got a neat perspective of working with people in the church, and I love talking to her. Yeah,
and we'll have a video out, talking with them and getting to know them and introducing y'all to them as well. Both of them went through Bear Valley.
That's right.
And so they have a neat perspective on the school there.
We had a little connection that she met Caitlin.
Yes.
Back when they were in Bear Valley. So
right,
that's our daughter-in-law, Caitlin.
Yeah.
And so that was neat for her to know, because she went on Facebook and friended me, and then she was like looking at all of our mutual people. How do you know these people? And so that was just neat. It makes the church that's so big really small, and know that we're all family.
That's right. And we got to meet, of course, part of the reason we were going there, Colin and Sarah Henley, and Colin was a member at Eastside when we were there in Maryville, Tennessee.
Yep.
And
his mom Janet said, "You have to go and see them.
go check on them,
the kids."
And so anyway, Sarah's parents are there, Martin and Julie Johnson. Well, I don't know why I almost forgot the name, but they have an off-grid living channel on YouTube that you need to go check out. We'll have the links for that.
Neat. They're modern. Off-grid living, which I think, even if you're not interested in doing that in your life, it's neat to watch how they did it, and just gardening things that they do could be helpful. Just all kinds of neat. They lived in a tent for a while.
Yeah, while they're starting to build their house and drying it in.
I've watched some of their things, but I want to go all the way back and watch it all.
And it's I think right now they're working on. They're tiling a bathroom. So anyway, check their channel out. It's pretty cool. So if you're into just DIY house projects or home building, anything like that, or gardening stuff, they're doing it, and so it's worth checking out.
Well, and I think,
but they use it.
Not to like get into the video, because we want you to watch the video that Wayne interviewed Martin, and but they use that channel, and people in that Sandpoint area move there, and a lot of people off-grid living. Yeah, and
all of northern Idaho is,
they've started watching their channel, and then they're always talking about Bible class, and he also does some devos. But anyway, so they invite people, and they've had people come, and so they're using.
And they have baptized a lot of folks through that. I think he said somewhere around 20 folks that have obeyed the gospel, that have made connections to them through their other channel.
Right.
And so that's
really neat.
Again, that's using social media in a right and proper way, and really extending that opportunity to be able to preach the gospel. So we interviewed them, talked to them about the work, talked to Martin about the work.
And I was able to play bunco for the first time, and met the ladies there, and then some other, they do that once a month.
Yeah.
And I think we were playing and visiting for a couple of hours. We had lunch, and it was just so much fun. Or maybe it was dinner. It was dinner. Yeah. But we just had so much fun, and you switch tables. I had never played before, but you have that couple of minutes or sometimes 30 seconds, but you just have this little conversation while you're playing. And I got to know those women that way, and they, wherever they're having it, they leave one spot open at least to invite a friend, for the hostess to invite a friend, and so they are bringing people in that way too.
Yeah.
And so it was really neat.
And it's a great congregation. They were super friendly and very outgoing as far as wanting to reach into the community, and so that was just exciting to see. And they're a growing congregation, doing the work. We got to spend, catch up with Colin and Sarah and to talk to them. We interviewed them as well. We sat in here, all four of us sat right here where we are, and got to talk about, their future plans and kind of what's going on with them. Of course, they're expecting right now, but
they're such they have such servant attitudes and mindset. They've already got plans in how they're going to work in the kingdom
Yeah, they're going to be doing foreign work in Indonesia in a couple years. But but you can see they just have a servant heart, wanting to work for the kingdom, and work for the Lord, and so it's amazing to see how they're wherever they are. That's their plan, to help the church.
They're going to move back to East Tennessee. Anyway, watch the video because it's a really neat, just to hear their story and then their plans. I really was impressed.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're just wonderful to be around. So we were just excited. We had a good time that week with them, and got to spend a lot of time in their homes and stuff. Yeah, and so what was a surprise, we didn't realize that a Memphis graduate was right up the road. And so really just about 20 minutes, as far as the congregation was concerned, about 20 minutes away in Bonners Ferry, the Boundary County congregation, Wade and Lee Purdom were with the congregation there.
Yeah.
And so we got to spend some time with them. And so that really kind of just worked out. It was kind of accidental, but was so glad.
Such a happy accident.
Yes, it was.
Borrow a term.
Absolutely. Because we were sitting in an area that, should have been painted. I mean, we were sitting on a lake,
so
and we got to interview Wade and just catch up with them. And, there's a connection because Leah's sister,
yes,
married Daniel Flegert, and we knew them from Lake City, Florida. Alita, and I actually did their premarital counseling.
And I had
so many years ago.
That.
And so it was just funny, we walked in their home, and the moment that I saw Leah, I knew I know her. But who I knew was actually her sister, and they look a lot alike, and have they're just very similar, absolutely. And so, but it was just fun to be around with them and catch up with them and
their family.
And they're not, and they haven't been, because of where they are, they don't get to come to the lectureship, and so they just haven't been around Memphis, in a long time, especially. And so it was good to catch up with them and to talk about Memphis and kind of update them on what's been going on, and so it was just a really good time and a really neat visit with them, and we got to spend just a relaxing day on a lake.
Yeah, something that we've noticed everywhere we've been, people want to show us their town. They want to show us the sights. They want to help us to see the beauty of where they are, and I guess we're all like that in some ways. When someone would come down to Gulf Breeze, we wanted to take them to the local, the best restaurant, or go out on the Gulf, obviously. But I mean, there was things that we wanted them to see, or when we lived in East Tennessee, and anywhere we've ever lived, even in South Georgia, there's the swamp, and you want to take them and see that. And so that has been so neat to just be able to see those local little places, and then the beauty of everywhere we've been.
Yeah, that's true.
And even inside a little town like we're at now, we're going to see their, view is right down the road. But anyway, we'll talk about that. But we were able to go to this lake where they camp, and that's their getaway place. And that's their quiet place. And it was
about 13 miles, I think, probably as the crow flies, as they say, from the Canadian border. I mean, so it was.
We could see
it was
Canada
up there
from there.
Yeah.
And we don't have our passports yet, so we have been so close to the border, all up here. But next time.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, so that was, and we'll have an interview with him right there on that lake.
Yeah,
that was really pretty.
It was.
And we took a group picture, so we can pop that up there. And then we moved over. Yeah,
and so basically the whole month of June is Montana for us. And so we started in Libby, Montana, which was only an hour and a half from where we were in Bonners Ferry.
Yeah, those are good travel days.
And so like the short traveling, and so but we moved over there to Libby, Montana, and we heard about the congregation. The connection that was there was when we were wintering in East Tennessee, we were visiting a lot with the Sweetwater, Tennessee congregation, and that's where Matthew and Olivia were attending at the time. And John and Tracy Graham, who are members there, they have, he worked for years, 25 years maybe, with the sheriff's office in Libby, Montana, and so he knew the church there. The church met him their home for a time years ago. And so we got through them, we got to meet the preacher, Terry Crooks, and he knows all the Montana church history and a lot of Montana, period, because he's a hunter and fisher and likes to do all those things.
Yeah.
And so was giving us kind of the backdrop, if you will, of congregations in Montana. So that was good to get to know him. He's been there several decades, and so he just knows a lot of the work in the area. And I think it was just that was a really good visit. We got to talk about the work. I got to meet a lot of the members, and there were members there who knew where Matthew and Olivia are now, down in Athens, and so knew the congregation, the central congregation in Athens.
And they knew
and so there was
Olivia's grandparents.
Yeah,
and
so there was a connection that was there too, and that was very fun. And didn't get to interview Terry while we were there, but I'm gonna try to get one. We'll get on StreamYard or Zoom or something and get an interview with him, and just to talk about one of the themes that we're noticing, especially through northern Idaho into Montana, is obviously there's a need for preachers to come out this way, and so that's something that we want to continue to highlight and talk about, and we'll talk more about that with Terry in that interview, and so we'll try to get that done as soon as possible, and get that out.
Yeah, because when we went over to Columbia Falls to the Glacier Church,
thing,
they need a preacher, and
even right down the road from there, Kalispell is needing. They're looking for a preacher, I think, as well. So,
and if you have the right mindset, knowing that you're going to be, if you're coming from the east over, but if you have that adventure mindset, but the thing that I thought about was how safe the areas are
for families,
and whether you put your kids in public school or homeschool, I mean, it's just a good environment. All the congregations that we visited are just so sweet, and they want families. Some of them are more older congregations, as far as age of the people, but there's also young people, and a lot of times when you walk in and you see there's even two families with kids, it draws other people in. Absolutely. And you can draw the community in that way. And so if you can have that right mindset to come out here and get to work, I mean, that's what Wade and Leah did. They just came and got to work.
And planted themselves.
Yeah, they're way away from their families, but they've made it work. And knowing that they would be, if somebody came out here, the churches, the people know that the preacher needs to go and visit. Yeah. Go back and visit family. Yeah.
Well, and the only way they know that preachers are going to stay is if they give them some time to go and be with their families, that kind of thing.
But if you're interested, if you have an interest in it, we can hook you up with the people to talk to and tell you about these congregations. Yeah,
numerous congregations are needing preachers. Mm-hmm.
And I even thought, what if two families? One was preaching down the road from the other, but they knew each other well. Sure. Then they could support each other as they're all getting started and becoming family with those churches, because it's hard. Yeah. We know, we've lived the life.
Yeah, absolutely.
For a lot of years.
And I think about too, it's always good for, just thinking also about families. Mm-hmm. Not just preaching families, but sometimes just families that are looking for
somebody retired,
areas to work. Then areas that think about, if you're in that kind of situation where you're thinking about moving, think about the church. We're supposed to put first the kingdom, right? Mm-hmm. And so think about the church and think about areas, where you might be able to best help a congregation by being there. And so kind of have that mindset where it's about the kingdom and ways that we can help and encourage and work in the kingdom, finding our place in the kingdom, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we went to the Glacier congregation, that's in Columbia Falls. That's 20 minutes north of Kalispell. And so you're kind of in that little bit of a valley there, and you're right next door to Glacier Park, National Park, and which is beautiful. It's huge. It's amazing. It's wonderful. Need to come visit, and when you do, come visit. The Glacier Church. The Glacier Church there in Columbia Falls. And I think it's interesting. And we got to spend some time with them on a Wednesday and Sunday and get to know their members as well. Of course, they were having Sunday. This past weekend was kind of ramping up their season. And so folks were coming in. As we're leaving, we're passing campers.
Well, and we hit the park just right.
Yeah, we did.
It was really neat because we were like a week ahead of the crowds. Mm-hmm. So we went on hikes and we went just sightseeing, and there was no lines getting into the park. You just drove in, showed your pass, and at the time we weren't even having to do a timed entrance. They weren't doing that yet. And so
this week that starts.
We went on the Saturday after we had been there that week and couldn't find a parking place to go for a hike.
We were just going to go for a quick hike, and there was no place to park.
I would say, but all the lodges were open. Going to the Sun Road was almost complete. We didn't get to do the whole drive.
It'll probably still be another week or so before it's open.
Yeah, I think their season starts like June 13th is what they were talking about. But it's beautiful. And everywhere we've been, like I said, they want to show us. And so when we got there on Wednesday, they were like, "What have you seen? Where have you been? And let's tell you about this place and make sure you go here." And so it's really neat.
And we also got to spend a good bit of time with the elders, both the elders, there and their families, obviously. So, and so that was really good. And we learned about the congregation there, and they're getting ready to start that process of looking for a new preacher. And and so if you're interested in some of that, you want to reach out to us, we'll gladly share their information.
They're doing some good community outreach.
They got a lot of community outreach that they're working on, and ways that they're wanting to help, and the work that they're doing. And so it's an impressive congregation, and that's one thing too that we keep finding. These smaller congregations have their struggles, no doubt, but they're still working. Mm-hmm. And still holding to the truth, and so I love seeing that. That's encouraging to me to see over and over, and I just think it's something that we want to definitely continue to highlight as we go about. One of the things, because of it being right next to Glacier, it's an area that's seasonal, and so they get seasonal workers come in, either for the park or for some of the farms. And
a lot of the staff that they have at the lodges, like we saw a lot of young staff, and they come in from all over the United States to work at the park. And so if that's something that your kids, I know my boys, if we would have known about it, they would have been all over doing that. But if you have a teenager that's interested in doing that, or I think I heard one waitress say that, or server, I guess is the term, she had been coming back for 8 years. And they provide lodging if you get on with the lodge, and 3 meals a day, because where they, like their bunkhouse or whatever, they don't have a kitchen, but they provide them meals, and so
they work their shifts, and then you go and do your thing.
But the Glacier congregation, they had 2 years ago, there was a girl who came, and she didn't get a job in the park, but right outside. But they had a basement, and she was able to stay with them. That was really nice. And so there's a congregation there, and that gives a parent peace of mind.
Right.
And they had contacted them about just finding a rental, because it's hard if you're having to come in and find your own place to live. And then we met Emma.
Right.
And we went out to lunch with the elders and their wives, and then Emma came also, and she's a young woman from Morristown, Tennessee. And she's working on a farm and living in a tent. And it was her first night.
She's tenting for the whole season, so
it's different.
And so she was, an adventurer, and was going there obviously for that kind of experience, and so we're excited for her, and she was very sweet and wonderful to meet, but she immediately connected to the church there too, so I think that was impressive, for a younger Christian thinking, I want to find the church, and so she was there and worshiped with us on Sunday. Grounded. And so that was wonderful. From there, we left and went southward to Whitehall, Montana, and so we're
That's where we are now.
That's where we are currently, and we're a little bit north of, a couple hours still from Yellowstone in that area, and the edge of
Butte.
Wyoming and Idaho and all that. Butte's right down the road, about 20 minutes, and so there's this is a big recreation area, and so a lot of people come here with ATVs,
which we didn't know
side by side.
We were coming.
But it is a beautiful area. There's mountains still all around us, and so we get to see that. The Whitehall congregation, John Dufford here is the preacher, and just kind of giving me just kind of a quick history. We just came in yesterday, and we were getting hooked up and set
We're able
up.
to stay here on their property for a couple of days. They don't have sewer, so we'll probably stay here until Thursday.
Yeah, and then move just right down the road.
Anytime that we can
ways.
do that is so nice.
Yeah, that's
Saves
obviously
money.
saving money. It's a big help for us, but it also gets us in proximity of the membership. When
Yes.
they're here and doing things, and of course the church here has. Talking to John about the congregation here, years ago there was a congregation that was planted, and it didn't last but a couple years before they had to, they packed up, basically moved on to other places. But the congregation, they came back in, planted another congregation. They were meeting in a home for a minute. There was a member who was buying a home and letting the church, let the church meet there, I think, for just a moment in time, and then he passed away, and that was our connection to him would have been. That's how we heard about the congregation here, was through folks down in Albuquerque.
Yep,
And so Dan and Paige. Well, it was Dan's dad who was here and bought a house here, and so they told us, hey, come and visit the area, and meet John and meet the congregation here. And the congregation's been very resilient since that time period. They've had to meet the VFW, and then there's a member here who does, he's got an auto shop, and on the back of that shop, basically they built a room for the church to meet, and built another room for an apartment for the preacher.
Oh, that's neat.
And he also does some. He makes violins and stuff too, so that's interesting. I'm ready to kind of check that out too, and see his work in that. And so, but he's got a little shop area too that he does work. And they meet, I think, every Tuesday. And tonight they're supposed to have a meal. All their members get together, and so they do Taco Tuesday.
Like once a week or something.
I think it's once a week. And so I'm excited to eat some tacos.
Yeah.
And to spend some time, get to know them, obviously, and then and they meet on Thursday night for Bible class instead of Wednesday. And then, of course,
we can go over to another
so
church.
Wednesday night we're planning to go over to another congregation we were told about, and so we'll talk about that on another episode. But and then I'll get to be with them on Sunday as well, and then from there we will be moving over to East Montana,
to Sydney.
2 days travel for us.
Yeah.
But we get to go to Sydney, and the exciting thing about Sydney is the fact that it was one of the first congregations that called the school asking for encouragement.
Yes, and so it kind of validated what we wanted to do. And they called about a week before it had been announced.
Yeah.
And so I remember Michael took the call, Michael Clark, and he said, give us a minute and we'll get back with you.
Yeah.
And so I've been in touch with Sarah Martin since then, and she's the preacher's wife.
Yeah.
And it's been really neat to get to know her just through messaging, and so we will be there next week. And finally, we made it to Sydney.
And if I understand right, it's one of the elders who's doing the preaching.
Yes.
And so
out of necessity.
Out of necessity. And so when we get over there, we're going to get to spend a lot of time. We'll spend a whole week with them,
and we'll report back all of that.
We'll pick up there next, obviously, and start talking about that. One of the things that, as we kind of start to wrap this up, we just wanted to, it seemed like it had been a while since we had at least been reported.
Well, and after Sydney, we start going south. Yeah. Start South Dakota. Yeah. And then see the grandkids. Yeah.
Back to family and be able to catch up with them, because it's been 3 months, and that's hard for us. But I think, and this especially, what I want to highlight is the idea that obviously there's a need for preachers out in the West. There's a lot of good brethren that are out here doing the work, wanting to do the work, wanting the help, needing the encouragement. Maybe even families that are looking for places to move and that would want to help the congregation in that kind of way. These are wonderful brethren, and what I love is the John and I were talking. We kept using the word resilience. There's a resilience. There's a kind of an independent spirit. We had met some other folks in a campground, not members of the church, but just talking about folks in the West, particularly to California. But when we were talking about, there's this independent spirit, and there's a little bit of that goes on. But as far as the churches in Montana, they all know each other. They're all kind of spread out, so they don't get to spend a lot of time together. There is a lectureship in Montana that takes place every year, and so a lot of them that's kind of where they get to catch up, every year, same as we do back home,
right.
Obviously. But it's the they keep up with one another, and so they keep checking on each other and trying to encourage, and I think that's important. So there is a support system kind of built into this area.
And if you watch any of the preacher videos,
you find that out for sure through those videos.
It's a need.
Yeah.
That you find out that's a need.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have connections with other people, you start struggling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a necessity.
You need that support. Congregations need that support. Preachers need that support. Brethren need that support.
Right.
And I think that's...
And so that's what we're trying to make those connections as best we can, and find out if they're already connected,
right.
And because I think Wade even mentions in his video how the Zoom call and how that helped him so much, and it still does.
Yeah, through some that are in Montana, but even some that are in Washington.
Yeah.
And so...
No, Idaho. Washington.
Well, northern Idaho, but also in Washington,
Yes.
And so it's where, he was
That's right.
connecting with a lot of those preachers and trying to, they were doing Zoom and trying to make sure they were just checking on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And
praying for each other.
Yeah. And so I think that's good. We're thankful for you, following along and keeping up with us.
Yes.
And
we would love for you to keep praying for us.
Yeah.
And if you know of a preacher or preacher family, because sometimes we're doing things behind the scene that we can't really report. It's personal things, and we love to talk to people and help in any way that we can, encourage. So if you know of someone, individual, preacher, leader, anybody, we would be happy to call or contact or even go and visit if we can. Just make those connections. And if you know of a congregation that would like for us to come into a seminar, we have edification seminars, finding their place in the kingdom, whether it's the congregation or individual. We would love to do that. And of course, we're still trying to raise support for our work. And so if there's any way that you can help with that, we'll have our QR code. You can follow us and like and subscribe. That helps us also to get the word out, get our videos pushed further, so that more people can get to know us and we can get to know them.
Yeah, and please share this with brethren, because as we're doing this work, we're a year in. So June we started last year.
Right.
And June 1. That's for Michael.
That's our anniversary, so we've been doing it a year.
Yep.
And this trip out west was for us to get to know congregations and for congregations to get to know us. And so hopefully the next time we come, we will have a work that we're going to do with a congregation, and then we will plant ourselves. We'll come straight to them instead of doing this big circle.
Right.
And that way we can spend more time. More time to get to know their needs and have a purpose to come and do for that congregation.
Right. Whether it be just a seminar, but we would be here a week before, maybe a week after even the seminar if we were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Because getting to know them, getting to know their needs, that way we can best minister while we are here, because we know we can't spend a lot of all of our time here, but we want to spend more time with them, and so So as those things are scheduled, that's how we'll start laying
Right.
those out, and I think that'll be helpful for congregations, and it'll be beneficial, in more than just, we love gospel meetings and we love those kind of things, and those are always great weeks for congregations.
And we're willing to do
and in-
ladies' days, all of that
yeah,
kind of stuff.
and in local work, one of the things that we always talk about, the effectiveness of a gospel meeting. But usually, that preacher comes in and he's there maybe the day before and leaves the next morning after it's over, and he's gone. But
he has to get back
because he's got other work to do. So we can spend a little more time with the congregation on the front end, and even on the back end, doing some follow-up studies, or just continuing to encourage. But we get to know a little bit more of the needs, and can be hopefully more helpful in those times that we are with them and speaking to them, and those kind of things. So that's kind of our purpose, and the way we've kind of, over this year, we've figured out kind of what will work a little bit maybe better to help congregations. So we're always grateful for those congregations that reach out. But so you may know of congregations that would benefit in this way, or preachers, or just members. If we can help and encourage in some way, reach out to us. We'll have all of our information in the description below, and so you can share that with those who would find it helpful, and continue to watch, to follow along, and we'll see you further down the road.